Hey, welcome to the Cyber Savvy Woman, where women business owners reclaim their power in the digital world. We shatter the myth that cybersecurity is too complex to master and transform protection strategies into clear, actionable guidance. This is your digital empowerment sanctuary, where cyber fear becomes cyber confidence. Whether you're protecting client trust as a therapist or safeguarding financial data as an advisor, you'll hear from women founders who've conquered digital challenges and security experts who speak your language. Every woman leading a business deserves to feel unshakable in her digital decisions, no matter her technical background. Are you ready to stop letting cybersecurity intimidate you and start letting it elevate you? Here's your host, Rachele Schainker.
Welcome back to the Cyber Savvy Woman, where we talk about practical ways women can protect themselves, their businesses, and their futures in our increasingly digital world. I'm your host, Rachele Schainker, a Silicon Valley technologist and owner of the award-winning managed service provider, CMIT Solutions of San Mateo. Have you ever had that one thing, a project, a decision, a tech mess, sitting on your chest for months, and the second it's finally done, you feel like you've got your brain back? Today's guest is basically the person you call to move that boulder. Today, we're talking with Sharon Schanzer, founder of What's Your Boulder, the implementation studio. Sharon is a longtime tech and implementation pro who turns stalled projects into finished results. She actually gets the work done. She's also founder of RLD Group, a design studio building WordPress, Shopify, and Lovable sites and brand collateral. She also created AI FOMO Nomo, a beginner-friendly workshop that makes AI simple, useful, and not overwhelming. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad it's Friday. I always get tired listening to my bio.
Yeah, exactly. For anyone who's meeting you for the first time, share with us what you do in one sentence. What is the tagline version? What do you, what's your elevator pitch to people?
Yeah, well, I mean, what I do in terms of my What's Your Boulder, I actually, a friend of mine gifted me without knowing it, a tagline the other day recently, which is called Consider It Done. And that is how I run both of my businesses. AI FOMO Nomo is a class, so that's a separate thing. But in terms of my consulting practice, implementation studio, What's Your Boulder, and RLD Group, what I am really about is getting stuff done. And that really can be anything. I mean, I brainstorm with people that have projects that they never even knew that they needed to get something done. I'm like, I'll take care of that for you. And that is for me so much fun. I really I'm very different than a typical consultant who gives advice, because for me, giving advice is only good enough if the person actually takes your advice and does it, which a lot of times they don't because they can't, they don't want to, etc. And for me, I'd rather just take the project, I'll take care of it, consider it done, end of story. So that's my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so is it no project too big, too small? I mean, or are you selective, or, who are the general clients that you're working with? Like, what are the typical projects that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely no project too big or too small. I mean, I've been in business for myself for this round, 26 years, and I was previously self-employed as well, just doing a different sort of same thing, but different company. And you never know. You have to start with sometimes with tiny projects. I try not to do administrative work because there's definitely a slippery slope. And once people have sort of a vision of you, I mean, I'm good at it. So it's sort of like, can you do this for me? It's administrative. I'll do it for an existing client, but I won't take on projects that are purely administrative because it's, something that someone else can do for them. But basically, in terms of where I start, an engagement with someone, absolutely not. I mean, oftentimes it's something small. You have to build trust with people. They have to see that you can say they're handing off a project to you. It's not necessarily a given that you can do what you're saying. Anybody can say something, and then being able to do it is different. And then oftentimes I get client work from existing clients that didn't even necessarily, like a client who might be a design client will give me work that's a much bigger, more Boulder related, non-design related project. Then they can often start as something big because we've established trust, and they say, oh, Sharon can do it. Of course, they know that. Yeah, no, not too big or too small. And if it's big, I'm obviously, no matter, how big a game I like to talk, I'm still only one person. And even with my use of AI that we all, are deploying to kind of triple my output, there's still only 24 hours in the day. And I still have limited, and there's expertise I don't have. Like I always talk about the same thing. I don't have deep expertise in finance. So I wouldn't take on the responsibility of someone who was effective, like a fractional CFO or anything like that, but I have a huge network. So I won't say no to something. As long as that's not the main component, it would be silly for me to take on a project that I couldn't do it all. But if there's pieces I can do, and then I can work, either as I'm operating as a project manager or the resource getter, which is not a thing, then, I'm fine with being the person that people come to. And I actually always say that as well with my design work. I was like, don't worry about whether I can do it or not. Just tell me what you need done, and I'll either take care of it, or if I can't do it at all, then I will pass it along to the right resource, because I have a huge, network, as I said. So don't decide for me. Like, people used to ask me, "Do business cards?" Of course, I do business cards, but why would they? So, but don't worry about if I do business cards or not. Just give me the work, and I'll take care of getting it done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Let's backtrack a little bit about your journey. It's very interesting. You were in tech for a long time, such as mainframes and early systems, but kind of take us through, with some of those highlights of your career and kind of what made you start your own consulting firm.
Well, I started my own firm sort of by accident, but I have been self-employed most of my career. So the beginning of my career, I worked at KPMG, which was called Pete, Warwick, Mitchell and Maine at the time. I worked in New York for a while, then I worked in the London office doing technical writing, which is something I just sort of discovered I could do. Because I have a very logical brain, and technical writing is just taking information and sort of laying it out in a logical way, so the person who's reading the instructions can understand them. That's my interpretation. So I did that in college as a job to make money in college, and then I started doing it as a sort of career. It wasn't ever, I don't think it was ever something I intended to do long term, which it wasn't. And then I sort of stumbled upon working at Condé Nast, where I was the first IT manager. At the time, there were just typesetting computers and no other computers of any kind, typewriters and typesetting equipment, long time ago. And I was just there at the right place at the right time. And Sly Newhouse, who's the owner of the company, is like, we need to computerize. Everybody's getting ahead of us. So you do that. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll do it. When you're young, you just do stupid things. It was obviously an amazing opportunity, unlimited resources. We wrote a sort of, my boss, who was like the VP of something or other at the time, I remember, we wrote a plan called the PC Connection. And there were no Macs. This was really pre-Mac. It was all PCs. I mean, there were starting to be, Apple existed and basic Macs existed, but they weren't really being used in the way that they are now, where like 100% of design work is done on Macs. So anyway, my boss and I, his name was Chester. We wrote this plan. We then computerized the company basically from beginning to end, involved taking prying people's computers out of their typewriters out of their hands. We're really into those typewriters. And then also, really, which is the most interesting part, is figuring out how to get these computers to talk to each other, because this was pre everything, right? So at the time, we were using a very high-end technology, which you may have heard of, called SneakerNet, which is shorthand for taking a floppy disk, which is not floppy anymore at the time. It was a 3.5-inch disk, and taking it out of your computer and walking it to someone else's computer, which was called SneakerNet.
The good old days. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was SneakerNet, but of course that didn't, that wasn't very long for the earth. So eventually there was some basic networking done with some tools I can't remember the name of. Anyway, after some number of years being there, I decided I wanted to go out on my own. So I left. Someone who worked with me at the time left as well, and we started a consulting company called Madison Technologies, which was named for the fact that Condé Nast was on Madison Avenue. Very creative name. And through that company, we basically did the same thing for other publishing companies.
Oh, wow.
So we were doing publishing systems. Business partner at the time, he sort of became the guy who managed the editorial side of things, and I handled the creative side of things, because he had a background, he was a writer, and I wanted to be a designer. That was what I wanted to be when I grew up. Somehow I ended up doing tech work. So anyway, we did that for many years, and that evolved, and I moved to San Francisco and so on, for no particular reason, just to get out of New York City after a long time of living here. And then he went his way, I went my way. And then eventually I started working in the .com space, which was the new thing. There wasn't even I didn't know I was going to San Francisco to get caught up in what was effectively the first .com gold rush. It was just there when I got there and just started. So I worked for different companies doing VP sales, VP marketing, that kind of thing for a while. And then very quickly, 2 years, almost the day after I arrived, the whole thing just shut down. The bottom fell out. It was completely unbelievable. At the time, it didn't feel like a very brief period, but when you looked back, it was literally, I did a student film with some kids, and it was a blip on the screen, 2 years. It was really incredible how much happened. But a lot happened during that time. The internet was basically born. At the time, we went from these CompuServe emails and AOL emails and things like that. So at the time it was either leave San Francisco because there were, I mean, it's not a big city. There's I think total like 1 million people in the sort of greater Bay Area, unlike New York. Either leave or find something to do. There were no jobs, zero jobs. And I was only got there 2 years earlier. I wasn't ready to leave. So I said, okay, I'll just start the design company that I had always wanted to start with my tech background. Because of course now I had, many years of doing tech and design kind of combined, but I still had never been trained as a designer, but I learned enough to be able to start my firm. So that's what I did. It's year 2000, started I started through BNI. I know you're involved in BNI. So the BNI chapter that I connected with, they were looking, they're like, we need people. What do you want to do? I was like, oh, I guess I'll do gift baskets because I was like, I'll do gift baskets. So I went, that's why I called my company originally Red Letter Day Graphic Design, because the Red Letter Day is an important day on the calendar. So I was like, I'll do gift baskets. So I joined BNI only to find out that I wasn't really that interested in shopping for gift baskets for people. I was like, I'll just do design work. So I started doing a lot of PowerPoint work, which it was a skill I had. One thing led to another, and I already had like Quark. We were using Quark Express at the time, and design didn't exist. And then I actually started working for Adobe as a client. I did a lot of different things, and then 26 years later, it's evolved a lot. Obviously, like at the time, it was PowerPoint and print. Now it's predominantly, well, mostly web, although I do a lot of print work still, which I really like. And then I found that I was doing tons of consulting work for my clients, having done all these things and had all of these experiences. And they were like, people asked me to help them start their businesses or take care of their boulders. And so I decided to create the secondary business, which is called Your Boulder.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating history, and yeah, no, I love it. And it's like I love how you're really like leaning into, what you do well, right? And like others can benefit from that. You are rare in that you legitimately have like technical and creative. How do you describe your kind of left brain, right brain superpower, or have you embraced it, I guess?
I definitely embrace it. Although I'll tell you a funny story, which is that it's hard when you're I'm a generalist. Basically, that's the term that they use now, or an operator, right? And it's hard when you are younger and you want to work, have a job, or a job, as I like to call it. People don't hire generalists, and they didn't, because they have this. I've heard this so many times since I started thinking about it out loud, which is that they want to put you in a box, and a generalist does not go inside a box. I need to be outside the box and thinking about how to make things better and looking at different patterns. That's just how my brain works. Like your brain works one way, Bob's brain works another way. My brain works across all these different things that I'm seeing how they're interconnected. It's just how my brain works. Just recently, I saw there's now a real sort of embrace of generalists and how important they are, in general, no pun intended. There's Operators Guild, there's a Generalist Society, and then there's basically a title that's now Chief of Staff, which is effectively like a senior level generalist. I actually saw a job posting the other day for an actual generalist. I actually was going to cry when I saw it.
Oh.
I mean, that's crucial for me. Like, I'm definitely not getting a job, but they have a job. But it's incredible that, I heard one person talk about how with the advent of AI, where people can, I don't think this is really, it doesn't apply to me because I've been a journalist since long before AI, but there is something about the skills that you are given if you understand how to use AI that allows you to kind of like not necessarily stay in your silo. So for me, I'm what's called, I've coined a new phrase. I'm going to say it again. You'll hear it on other podcasts, which is a pie-shaped generalist. So there's already a shape, there's already a phrase called a T-shaped generalist, right? So a T-shaped generalist is someone who has horizontal expertise like I do, but then one vertical that's very deep. So in my case, for myself, I say I have two verticals, which is design and technology. So that's where the pie shape comes from, right? The character guy.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And some people not everybody wants to be or needs to be a generalist. I'm perfectly fine with people who have deep expertise. Like I'm envious of that in some respect. Like I wish I had deep expertise. On the other hand, I don't. And it works for me because not a lot of people can sort of see the forest from the trees like I can, because I understand all these different little bits and pieces that to me don't feel disparate. I know that they do. Like people how do you understand all these things? I was like, I have no idea. Oh, I was like, how do you know how to spell your name? Like you just know, right? It was just how these things. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I had a similar experience where I was working at Nike, and it turned out I have an ability to translate technical for non-technical people. And I didn't even know that was a skill set, right? Like you don't go to school to be a systems analyst and be able to, explain it to marketing people. And they were like, "Oh, you're really good at this." And so they kind of kept pushing me out of IT and to engage on the business side. And I was like, "Oh, fascinating. I don't know why or how I could do it, but I can, but yeah, and it's definitely not a lot of people can do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's a bolder people? Let's talk about like if people come to you like with a website problem, right? And they think it's, they think it's a boulder, that's something they need to fix. When do you do like website assessment and maybe it's something else? Maybe their website is fine and there's something in the back end, or do you look at those kind of projects for them?
Yeah. I mean, actually, I do it. Like, I have a client who came to me recently. She's an existing client with a different project. So she has her one site, and she has another site. And she asked me to work on the other than the second site, which I did not develop. She had someone else develop for whatever reason. And I could tell, and this, right, just by looking at it, there was all sorts of problems with it. So I did an audit, and I presented her with a huge Google sheet. I said, these are the problems. And then I prioritized, and you should fix all these things. Some had to do with accessibility. Some had to do with the fact that it hadn't been properly set up in Google. Like some of it's low hanging fruit. Some of it is things that were really wrong, like phone number might be wrong or whatever. So I won't just take a project and just sort of say, I'll do it. And then oftentimes, like, I just did a project that was really interesting. An existing client came to me, and his wife actually said to me that they're thinking of buying another company, a different company, and they do their, excuse me, a separate company. And could I look at the company's website and tell them what I thought about it? And, they paid me obviously to do that. And the site is a mess, has no search rankings. It's in a highly competitive blue collar space. I mean, I didn't tell them they shouldn't buy the company. Obviously, that's up to them. But they obviously can't just buy the company blindly and then expect that they're going to get sales from a site that you can't even find on Google in a competitive space. I think, and they know what this client is, that what their current business has nothing to do with this new business, and they have nothing to do with design. It has nothing to do with technology, what they do to begin with. So, yeah, so and in this case, it was pretty interesting. I used a lot of AI, which I wouldn't have been able to do, whatever, a year ago to do. And I had to figure out how to do it. The first time I did it, it was AI. I used Claude, and it was wrong, basically, the assistant. So it took me some time to sort of make sure I was giving the right input to Claude. And the interesting part about this from an AI standpoint, I think, is that if I had tried to do it manually, there's a lot of pages on the site, mostly repetitive, which is a problem anyway. So that was one of the problems. But it was like 150 pages of mostly nonsense. Had I tried to do it manually, I mean, I wouldn't have done it like totally manual. There are lots of tools that do that. But if I had done it without AI, they probably wouldn't have paid me the fee that I would have had to charge them to do it. So because I was able to do with AI, they actually made two sites. They're thinking of buying two different businesses, and I was able to use the same tool I use Claude, and Claude amazingly creates what would otherwise, I mean, I'm a designer, so I have pretty high standards, but the output that it did in Word was something that I made sure it was correct, and I kind of crossed my T's and dotted my I's. It took, some number of hours. It wasn't a 2-second thing. I was able to just basically take the report as it was, say as it was generated, and send that to them with my notes.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was work that I wouldn't, there would have been like, instead of charging them like 10 hours or whatever I charge them, it would have been 50, and they wouldn't have paid for 50 hours. It would have been worth it. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Interesting. When you're working with some like early stage founders, do you ever see them kind of make some like common like out of order mistakes? Are they, register, are these things that you help, they're registering their name before they're checking the domain. Like, do you kind of help them set that up?
they 100%, like, people will decide on their company name. For example, this happens all the time before they find out that the URL is available. They're like, that's a good name. Let's call it like, Rainbow Bakery or whatever the name is. Well, that's obviously, I have no idea if that's taken, but probably it is, right? So, it's clearly, for me, it's obvious you need to come up with the URL, at least something close, before you come up with the name of the company, because you can't do it the other way around. Like, you can call your company whatever you want, as long as it's not trademarked, but you can't just grab a URL and put some random, like, TLD at the end, like dot, whatever, dot guest or something. So I have another client that came up with a name that could not talk them off the sledge. They took a name that has a hyphen in it that's different from another company without a hyphen, but they do the same thing. And what the other company does is a very different twist on what they're doing. Now, it's up to them to differentiate themselves. Or why would you choose a company name that's going to cause confusion before you've even started your company? Then there are people who resist trademarking or who trademark their name before they realize, whether the company has whether it's the right name because of the things I talked about. So it's a lot of low hanging fruit. I mean, I have all sorts of like domains that I've registered that I have companies I've not started. So I think it's human nature to say, this is easy. I'm going to can't come up with a name or register a domain name without checking to see if there's competition, or I'm going to put it as a .org because the .com's not available, but I'm not going to be a nonprofit, but it's okay. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's such a key element is like really, yeah, it's very, very important.
I mean, I'm working with someone now, and what I'm trying to do is she has a pretty big expectation of what she's going to be able to accomplish. I think it's reasonable, but I'm really trying to keep her focused and make sure that we do everything in the correct order, because it's easy. That's one of the things that I think I bring from an outside perspective. Like, especially because most people don't have, even if I didn't have all the expertise that I do, I'm still bringing an outsider's perspective. Like, if we're trying to get to point Z by March of next year or whatever, there are specific steps. Like, it's going to take a year to do. It takes a year to do a trademark, for example. If you need something that's defensible, you can't go to market tomorrow and not have it. I mean, you can. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but there are things that have to be done in the correct order. Most importantly, do not register your company name until you find if the domain is available, please. Do take nothing away from this. I have to unravel everything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's the tagline. That's the lesson. I do want to talk about AI FOMO Nomo. I love it. It's a great name, and good job on the branding there. What problem were you trying to solve when you created it?
I hope my friend will probably hear this story, but I'll tell it anyway. So I have a friend who retired early from her corporate job, and we were together, and she said, I'm going to take this class at such and such a thing online, and they're going to teach me one AI tool a week for the next 12 weeks. I was like, don't do that. That's not a good use of your time. Like, even though she has, effectively unlimited amount of time, right? So she's retired. And I thought, what people really, it's sort of the same thing as the previous question, is the shiny object problem. I mean, I suffer from it. It's human nature.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not trying to, throw sticks at people or cast stones, right? But what you really need to learn about with AI, first of all, is about prompting. It's not about which tool you use, because tool X today, it's going to be obsolete. Like, has anyone heard of Multimate, the word processor? No, right? But that's what we used back then. Like, so it doesn't matter if you learn to use Multimate. It only mattered if you learned how to do quote unquote word processing, which we don't even have the term anymore. So I really felt strongly that two things. One is that people were sort of, there's a lot of, noise, and there's a lot of these programs, and some of them, I'm not saying this not a legitimate use of people's time. That's what they want to do. But for me, it felt like not going to solve the problem of her feeling left out. And that's what the FOMO part. And so I also know that when, I'm such an early adopter, it's ridiculous. But obviously when people start talking about anything, like whether it's AI or a book everyone's read or a movie that everyone's seen and you haven't seen it, you don't want to admit, I didn't read that book, I didn't see the movie, it's like a fool.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so AI is like that on steroids, because obviously at this point, AI went from like not existing to existing, right? Overnight. And it's pretty scary. I think it's certainly a demographic, like slightly older, et cetera, but even younger people, if they're at a job where they're not exposed to it, you don't even know where to start. And so I just wanted to just, say there's no shame in not knowing. Nobody knows. It sounds like everybody knows, but in reality, a tiny fraction of those of us who are early, and even what I know, and I am really like tech, tech person, early adopter, is still a fraction of what like other people who are like deep in AI know, who've been using it for longer, so I don't have any FOMO in that, but I know even my worldview is still limited. There's only so many hours in the day. So I just wanted to make it so that it's really a basic class. I don't call it AI for dummies, because of course the people are not dummies. And of course that's also a taken trademark, but it really is just like, just come, don't be afraid. It's a 2-hour class. It's the same class every single time. It's very interactive. Just talk about prompting, update the material depending on, like, I was using ChatGPT more, and now I'm sort of maybe using Claude more. So maybe it doesn't even matter, because that's not even, whatever tool you like is all I care.
Exactly. Yeah. I try to stay also tool agnostic because it changes so much. So many people are like Claude or nothing or, whatever it is. And it's just like, who knows where that's going to go.
It reminds me, people used to ask me, I've been a photographer, hobbyist for a very, very long time since like I was a kid. And people, and not so much anymore because now everyone uses the phone, but people always ask me what kind of camera I used. It's not about the camera. It's about the photographer. Or being a good writer doesn't matter whether you use Microsoft Word, Apple, whatever, Google Doc. It makes no difference, obviously, about with the craft. So prompting, people have to think of the prompting, which is really the difference between what you get out of AI is so much about what you put it, even more so in some ways than what like writing tool you use or what camera you use, because they're so different. All the models are different and all the little tips. So I teach a bunch of little tips and things like that. So yeah, I'm like you, thrilled that I was able to get the AI FOMO Nomo. I'm a legend for getting I got What's Your Boulder, AI FOMO Nomo. I'm always shocked. I'm like, how is it possible that someone else would make it? It wasn't long ago, probably like, I don't even think it was a year ago that I got that domain name. So
Yeah, no, it's great.
yeah, it's not .ai. It's AI.
Yep, that's great. Yeah. Now the course looks really interesting. I think I shared it with one person. I wonder, I have to follow back up with her, see if she actually did it. When someone says they're overwhelmed and I don't know where to start, and you're so good at starting and completing things, what's a little hint for them? What should they be doing? What can they do in the first 60 seconds to kind of get them motivated to start a project or finish it?
Well, I'm very specific. So I have a What's Your Boulder process or technique that actually is where, so What's Your Boulder started out for a minute, it was sort of more of a personal philosophy. I was going to do some like speaking and helping. I thought that it's not legitimate for that, but then it just evolved into my business name, basically. The philosophy is still the same. So when I was thinking about speaking and teaching about, my thing is just basically kind of close your eyes and think about what one thing pops into your mind that would give you so much like peace of mind, whether it's, paying your taxes or doing your laundry, it doesn't matter. But there's definitely going to be one thing that's going to come to mind first. It's just, if I could just get that stupid thing done, I would feel like the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders. And I use a metaphor when I'm speaking about, if I could wave a magic wand, or I could give you, like, you could lose weight. Not, I don't mean literally lose weight, but how would you feel? Is that one, like, everyone has one, and there's nothing, and you only have to experience it one time. It's such a high to get whatever that boulder. And of course, the kind of pathetic part for everybody as human beings is that, or not pathetic part, whatever, is once you take care of that boulder, there's just another one right behind it. There's never, no one's ever, you don't really want boulders.
Exactly.
I mean, even like super wealthy people have like not a care in the world and can deploy everything at a whim. I'm sure they even have, people or whatever. So everyone has something that's kind of nagging at them. And like I said, it could, like, for me, I'm moving soon. So I have a big pile of stuff in my living room. I joke about this all the time. Like, it's a boulder. Like, every couple of days I go in there and I like give away a couple of things, but it still kind of nags at me. Like, I wish I could just get it all done. And I wish I could just hire someone to take care of it.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing that you also have boulders you need to care for.
Of course. Misery loves company. Yeah, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, here I was thinking you had no boulders.
Oh no, not even close. That's the whole reason I came up with the name, was because I was like, oh, this boulder is just killing me. Awesome.
Yeah. No, that's great. Okay, so Sharon, we've come to the point of the podcast, a quick little rapid fire. I'll ask you questions. You share what comes top of mind. What is one tool you can't live without right now? Technology tool.
I would probably say it's AI. So I still use ChatGPT primarily, but I'm using ChatGPT and Claude against each other. See who wins in the end. So, Battlestar Glove.
Same. What is your favorite get unstuck move when you're procrastinating? If you feel like you need to get going, how do you? Again, that kind of ties back to my last question. But like, is it a mindset, or like, how do you get that to do it?
Right. So it's obviously personal. I mean, not personal question, but I mean, it depends on the person. But for me, what works, I am highly distractible. And so what I need to do, I do this thing called hibernation days, usually on a Sunday, hopefully on a rainy Sunday, not always. And I have this thing about what I call don't break the seal. So I instruct all the people around me, like my parents, do not call me unless it's a life-threatening emergency. They don't always follow, but it is true. Because as soon as I'm like distracted for 1 second, it's like the floodgates have opened. So I don't, like, I stay in my PJs. I don't go to the supermarket. I live in the city. Like even though the supermarket for me is just across the street, but that is it. I'm done for 3 hours of just gone, just not that I walk around like, oh, I wish, whatever. So for me, it's very important to have these completely uninterrupted days. And I mean like the tiniest little poking of the hole, the seal is broken and everything is for naught. So yeah.
Oh, that's it's interesting because people will say like time block, but like you can still get distracted in time blocking. Like, I can time block all day and not do anything. So it's maybe I need to do up it and put the seal on and be like,
Hibernation day is and I wouldn't say I do it all the time, but I do it more, sometimes more than I would like to because I'm busy during the week and I have stuff on the weekends that I'd like to get done, like, work type things. But when I do, and at the end of the day, especially with some gigantic project, like just using your taxes as an example, or whatever, that's however people do, like just getting it done. It's just so, because it's just going to be weighing on you and gnawing at you and do it. And then you try to do something else. Or by the way, I'm sure this would be true of everyone who's listening. Are we all much more productive when we have a boulder? Yes, right? Because we have all sorts of other things we're getting done, right?
yeah, it's so true.
But I think you will find that if you get the boulder done, you can still be productive on these other things that you've used as distractions, so.
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. It really is. What is the most underrated business skill in 2026, would you say?
I hate to keep talking about AI, but super important. But also, I think actually just to kind of even go to something more basic, this is very basic, but I think Google Docs, people really should become, a master of using those kind of tools, specifically Google Sheets, because I've been literally doing spreadsheets since Lotus 1, 2, 3, right? But Google Sheets is really it's a simplification in a way that it's not only simplified things, but it's elevated things. And I use Sheets for everything. And Gemini, which I use only, I use Gemini, of course, but I use it when I'm in conjunction with Google Sheets. It's pretty amazing what it can do. Like I actually know how to do formulas in Google Sheets, but I don't need to do that anymore. I just tell Google what I want, or Gemini what it does it. So for me, staying organized is really like imperative, and learning how to create a good Google Sheet, learning how the different, like how to whiz bang thing works, like freezing the title rows and printing and everything. It really means that you can kind of deploy a lot of things in an organized way. So I would say if you're going to master one thing other than AI, which I think is kind of given at this point. And I guess one other thing is really, I hate to be sort of like the person who talks about LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is so important. I'm sort of like, I have sort of mixed feelings about LinkedIn, as for a variety of reasons we don't have time to talk about, but it is very important in the sort of ecosystem of getting a job, keeping a job, making contacts and so on. And it has to be taken seriously. Like you really have to use it properly. You have to have a good LinkedIn profile, good LinkedIn photo, all that kind of stuff. So it's another thing I think it's really important to really make sure that it's refined, especially if you're looking for a job. But even if you're not, like even if you're looking for clients, people look at your profile.
Yes, exactly. It's my vetting tool, right? It's like, are they legit? Are they not legit? Where are they now? Where are they going? Yeah, no, it's so true. And then Sharon, what does being cyber savvy mean to you?
Well, it's like all the things that we talked about. I mean, these tools are so important, and to know how to use all the different tools we talked about, how they work together. I mean, there's such time, everything. We're obviously like well past the point of people not learning how to use computers, but I find that people still, like I had a client who said, I don't know how to use Google Sheets. I don't know how to do any of that. I was like, well, why are you making excuses for yourself? If you're going to run a business, you should learn how to do those things. Like I don't need to learn how to do your business because you're doing your business, but you should use all these tools because they're really imperative. So, and I don't really think it's age specific. I mean, I don't think someone can't learn. Obviously there's, I've been doing it for a long time. If you're trying to learn like tools in your later part of your life, it's harder, but it's not impossible. There's something about these tools that say you can't learn it. And so there is sort of like this, I guess it's like a chic, I don't know anything about technology thing that people like, but I don't really think that's going to that's not
No, it's not going to end well. It's really not. Yeah.
No, I just think it's really, I think it's so empowering. And the people, even the clients who I work with, I have clients that really run the gamut, age, gender, career paths, et cetera. I mean, every single thing. And the people who I work with, who are my clients who are cyber savvy, no, I can't speak, cyber savvy people, they're more effective at working together with me. They're not struggling like to turn their Zoom cameras on, or they need information in a way that will make it simpler for them. I mean, I will take information from anyone in any format. That's one of my, things, but that doesn't mean that you have to, waste both of our time by knowing how to give the information the way that makes sense, and then people feel also, they feel handicapped. And so, basically just learn as much as you can. You don't have to learn everything, but just, learn as much as you can.
Yeah, and there are a lot of resources out there, I think, that can be made for the type of learner you are, where you are, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Classes at SCORE, ask around. Like, if people ask me how to do things, I'm not going to spend my days doing that necessarily. It's not practical, but I'm always happy to give, tips and tricks. The iPhone one, I think, is more specific, but there's tons of places to take classes, whether it's like at your local, high school and things like that. But even if, depending on where you are, depending on where you, and then if you don't, then you have to hire people, and that's fine. Like, not everybody wants to learn all these things, and find the right people, to help you, because these tools really do make such a big difference. And I do plenty of things. I'm like completely fine with doing things analog. I'm not like I'm fine. It's not a problem. I still take, I don't so much anymore because I now use AI note taker, but until recently, until AI note takers became, so sophisticated, I use Granola, which I love. I still was taking notes on paper because that's just, for me, how I like doing it. So that's totally fine if that's how you want to do it. But I also think people should learn how to use an AI note taker, because that's been a game changer for me. So
Yeah, yes, for follow-up, that helps me immensely. Sharon, I love how you frame this. Done enough is done, and finishing that boulder gives you your brain back. And I also love the reminder that in 2026, tech confidence isn't optional, it's learnable, and you don't need 25 tools. You need the one that's going to actually help you. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Sharon, please make sure you check out our show notes so you can see her different websites, all of her resources that are available. She has a wealth of information for you. Sharon, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And to our listeners, thank you for joining.
thank you so much. This has been great. Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
The Cyber Savvy Woman podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Hey, thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode.